Alright, what's up everybody? In this video, I'm going to give you a complete roadmap, literally from zero to beyond, on how to start an agency and take it through the necessary phases, as well as how you can scale yours and what to do when you actually finish the roadmap. So I'm going to talk about why you need a roadmap, the actual roadmap itself, and by the way, you can screenshot it and use it as you please. And third, what to do when you actually get through the roadmap, because obviously the roadmap has a series of steps. And so what do you do once you've kind of got everything built and you're probably doing about 10K per month? How can you scale beyond that? If you don't know who I am, my name's Courtney. I make videos on how to scale agencies. And if that sounds interesting to you, I'd encourage you to subscribe. With that being said, let's rock and roll. So let's start by understanding why you need a roadmap and why it makes all the difference between the people who I see, and I see a lot of them, start and successfully build an agency or scale theirs, or start and then completely fail, right? And the main thing is most of you spend all your time figuring out what to do instead of actually doing things that are going to help build success. And what I mean by this is there's way too many YouTube videos and way too many courses and way too many Reddit forums and messages and things going out there telling you different things. And if I was to guess, majority of you are spending all your time on YouTube or in courses, learning, seeing all of these things and not actually taking any action. And then when you do take action, a lot of people rush straight to the good stuff, quote unquote, right? They're building websites, they're designing logos, they're doing all of these things before even validating their offer, which just leads to, a lot of hopelessness, because when you've spent so much time building something and then to see it fail, that is when most people give up. And instead you can shortcut that entire process by not thinking, just doing, and not doing the wrong things, but doing the right things by following a completely A to Z roadmap. And with that being said, let me actually get into the roadmap itself, share my screen and take you through it. So now that we're in my machine and I can actually show you this roadmap I've put together for you guys. And honestly, we're really getting into the meat and potatoes here. This is probably like one of the things that will catapult your success more than anything else, right? Just printing this out, looking at it every day and just taking action. And I'm going to take you through the entire process from start to finish, but I would encourage you to have a look at this and identify where are you now, right? And figure out where you are in this roadmap and then look at, have you actually completed all the things in the past? And then if you're sitting there wondering, I've been doing this for a couple months, I don't know what to do next, then just look ahead of yourself and we'll go through it. So let's start right at the beginning, okay? And the first thing that you need to do if you're thinking of starting an agency is just get into an environment where it's actually possible for you to build a business. This means predominantly enter some form of monk mode. That's the common word being thrown around for it. But basically try to not drink alcohol. Make sure you have like 8 to 9 hours of purely dedicated focus time. Don't have any distractions or anything like that roaming around. Have a decent setup where you can spend quiet time every day working, a decent computer, decent internet, all these things. Get into a good mental headspace. A lot of you probably have mindset issues which are holding you back. Make sure you work on all that first before you actually start getting into things, right? Most people skip this. Okay, then the next thing is to develop a niche hypothesis, the culture formula, and an ICP. So a niche hypothesis, most people just jump in and just choose random niches based on whatever's popular online, or their favorite YouTuber is doing this niche, and so they're just going to do the same. And it's a very backwards thinking, because what works for someone is probably not going to work for you, because you're all in different starting points in life, right? And so instead, sit down and develop a proper hypothesis. I think that this niche is going to work because people in this niche have this problem, and this problem is easily solvable by this service, which is what I'm going to offer. And therefore, if someone is offered a solution to a problem that they have, and the problem is deep enough, they probably would be willing to pay for it, right? That's a good hypothesis. Then actually think long-term. In other words, if this is successful, I'm going to actually need to build a real business around this. And so you need to start thinking about culture. Who do you want to have working in your agency? Do you want to have a culture where when a client doesn't get results, you refund them because you think your honor is more important than money? Or are you building a very toxic agency where everything is just about collecting a retainer and then running away, right? Start thinking about these things early and figure out what you are looking for in an A-team player so that you can become that person and develop those character traits yourself before you get to the point of trying to hire people. Most importantly, develop a ICP. Now, an ICP stands for Ideal Client Profile. Basically, this is just like your avatar. So just putting down on paper or in a spreadsheet who are you looking for as a customer? Are they old people, young people? Are they tech savvy, not tech savvy? Have they made money before? Are they completely starting? Who are you looking for in terms of clients? And really get it nailed down, even give them a name if you want. After that, develop the sales process. So obviously, before you can start reaching out to people and getting on sales calls, you need some form of a sales process. So typically the process that I preach and that I tell everyone to do is, audits, purely just because it allows you to only work with the best clients, right? And that's for another video, but you need to develop a very, very minimal sales process. So get your sales script together, some form of an auditing process, and MVP onboarding, right? So MVP, minimal viable. That basically means it can be very, very scrappy. So yes, you can build a fancy type form onboarding and everything, but honestly, for this stage in the process, you can just do like a quick Google form, or to be honest, even just like a Slack message, just so that if you do sign a client, you can onboard them and it's not going to be embarrassing, right? Just something very quick and scrappy. At that point, start outbound, right? Basically just start building a list of your ideal clients and start messaging them, whether that's email, whether that's Facebook Messenger, cold calls, doesn't matter. But just start reaching out to people you think are a good fit and speaking to the market, right? And this is really where you validate your offer and your niche. So your offer, are people willing to pay money for this? And your niche, is it easy to find the people in your ICP? And this is really kind of like a make it or break it part in the process. And you can see that over here. Either you get your first client or you don't, right? And if you don't, then you need to go back up here and make another niche hypothesis. And this is really a circle, right? Most people think that they're going to just choose a niche, they're going to send some outbound, sign a client, and then move on and scale and things from there. Chances are the first niche hypothesis that you make is going to be wrong, and you're going to have to go back to the drawing board. Now, I hope that that is not you, and you're one of the lucky ones who get it right straight away. I certainly wasn't like that. And I know a lot of people who are successful now who weren't like that. But anyways, I hope you are the anomaly, but chances are you're probably not going to be, right? And so this is just a process of going through, realizing, okay, I was wrong. What did I get wrong in my niche hypothesis? Going back to the drawing board and starting again. And so that's why everything here needs to be very, very minimal viable, because basically, you're trying to do this as quickly as possible. You're trying to iterate through this. You don't want to spend a month doing this. You want to spend like 2 days, so that every 2 days and then probably another week of testing it through validation. So pretty much every like week and a half, you can change niches, change offers over and over until you get your first client, right? Once you got your first client, we're going to move up to this part. And now I want you to deliver all of the services yourself. Okay, now this goes very against what a lot of people recommend. A lot of people recommend as soon as you get a client, outsource them to, someone in like the Philippines for like $2 an hour. I disagree with this approach. Number one, because most of you probably are starting agencies in niches and services that you have no idea how to implement, right? For example, if you're starting a Facebook ads agency and you have no idea how to run Facebook ads, it's going to be very difficult for you to hire media buyers because you won't know what you're looking for. It's going to be hard to manage them, because basically they can just, BS you because you don't know what you're looking at. And the other thing also is it's very difficult to talk to clients and come across as the expert if you have absolutely no subject knowledge. Now, does that mean you need to be the absolute best at service delivery? No, not at all. You can just know a little bit about it, right? Like, how do I install a pixel, these type of things. If that's your niche or service, just know enough to not be a complete newbie, right? And try and get some results for your first client yourself. And in the process of figuring out how to get results for this client, I want you to develop a SOP. So standard operating procedure, which basically is just a checklist of step 1, 2, 3, 4, on and on and on, right? And at this point, you have a proven and repeatable process. And then I want you to go ahead and iterate through it. So keep doing what you're doing. Get another 6 paying clients, right? And I think that a minimum retainer should be 2,000. So 6 times by 2,000. So your agency should be about 12,000 per month at this point. And what you're going to be doing through this process is refining your ICP and your SOP. So continually update this process as you learn things, continually update your ideal client as you learn, okay, this is the types of clients I like, these are the types of clients I don't like, et cetera, et cetera. And obviously get some results so you can actually get some case studies, okay, because that's important. After you've got to this point, then you want to hire your first offshore VA to delegate lead sourcing and repetitive client work. So Offshore and VA basically just refers to virtual assistants in the Philippines, South America, South Africa, places like that, where you can pay like $1 to $3, and it's not too expensive. But these people are not going to be client facing. In other words, they probably are not going to speak to clients, get on client calls, send updates or anything like that. They're basically just going to do some of the very repetitive work, like the lead scraping, lead sourcing, updating spreadsheets, stuff like that. Basically think of them as an assistant to you rather than like a full-time person in your agency, okay? And they usually are quite inexpensive. Now, I've said that you need to get 6 clients before here, but that's not a hard and fast rule. You could probably hire earlier depending on cash flow, depending on complexity of your service, etc., etc. But you get the point, okay? At this point, you now just have someone in the agency outside of you, right? There's 2 people, you and your VA. So congrats, you just went ahead and hired your first person, which is a big step. So congrats. At this point, what you're going to do is refine your welcome packs, the training and the culture. So a welcome pack is basically a document that you give to everyone saying, hey, welcome to the company. This is your role. So it really needs to explain the expectations, all the tools that they need, give them insight into your culture, and just welcome them to the agency. And then it also includes a link to training for them. Okay, and this can be very quick and dirty training. It can basically just be a series of looms and maybe like a Google Doc. The point is here to force yourself to get very clear on the role of this person. What are they doing on a day-to-day basis? And what are the expectations as well as the training so that they know what to do, okay? And it also forces you to now start really enforcing some of that culture. If they're not an 18 player based on the standards you set out, you need to get rid of them and replace them. But if they are, you need to tell them that so that they can grow, okay? Then you basically are going to keep iterating through this until the VA is autonomous. So autonomous basically means that they can do the work without needing to ask you questions. And pretty much every time a VA asks you questions, that means there's a hole in your training. Okay, so you can see how this whole thing is just a big feedback loop, right? Which is how we build agencies at scale. As they ask more questions, you're going to answer those questions, but update the training so that they don't ever have to ask that question again. So you can see how it's making your next hire even easier because the training is getting better and better. And when you're at a point where the VA is completely autonomous and they don't ask questions, they just get on with it, that is when you can start inbound marketing and raise your prices. So outbound is, you go out directly to them. Inbound is you start running ads, retargeting, you start into a lot of things to get people to come to you. I'll make a completely separate video on that. But the main thing is now that you have inbound running, you should have high quality clients coming to you, which means you can raise your prices, right? You can actually start charging more. And this is where we get really exciting and things start to kick off. You are now going to hire your first onshore, quote unquote, general manager. So this is basically someone who can delegate the remaining client work off you. So in other words, they can actually speak to clients, they can send updates, they can oversee the work that the VA is doing, they can do a lot of the things you were doing. And so at this point, you should pretty much be removed from majority of the client work, right? Your time should be freed up. And at this point, we want to get to the next part where we apply the 10% rule. And that's going to take me to talking to you about what happens when you finish this roadmap and how do you continually scale an agency once you've got the fundamentals built. Once you have the basics built out, running and scaling an agency is really just understanding that there are 2 parts to a business, the front end and the back end. Now, the front end is everything to do with marketing and sales, getting clients, and the back end is everything to do with delivering services and getting results for those clients. And the 10% rule is pretty simple, but really effective and really powerful. And basically it means if more than 10% of your customers are not getting results, then you should focus majority of your time on fixing the customer service. So hire better people, improve systems, operations, etc. Okay. But if less than 10% of your existing customers are not getting results, then you can go ahead and focus on more marketing, more sales, etc. Okay. So this is kind of like think of it like a temperature barometer in your agency that kind of changes depending on, how things are going and really gives you direction in terms of as a CEO, as an owner and founder, what you should be focusing on next. That brings us to the end of this. I hope this video was valuable to you. If it was, let me know down below in the comments. I'm going to be answering all of your questions myself, and I'll see you in the next one.